for me that sweet melody called doodly-doo, doodly-doo. I love the rest, but what I love best is doodly-doo, doodly-doo. It's the simplest thing, there isn't much to it, you don't have to sing, just doodly-doo it. I love it so, wherever I go, I just do-do-doodly-doo.
That's my dad. You can't get to the small town of Parsons in southeastern Kansas by plane or even by train anymore, mainly because that's how it goes in southeastern Kansas. You have to fly to Tulsa or to Kansas City and then drive the hour and a half the rest of the way. It's where my mother and my father met in the 1920s, and where most of my aunts and uncles and cousins stayed. Well, some years ago, when most of them got together back there to have a family reunion and to celebrate my father's 86th birthday, my Uncle Leon said to me on the phone in California, "Now, just remember, sis, when you get to KC, head north, turn left at the stop sign." The stop sign he's talking about is 125 miles outside of Kansas City. We ate out nearly every night. "How about we go on out to Chicken Annie's and order up some fried chicken?" "Well, what say we go down to the hotel and get ourselves some fried chicken?" "Oh, more chicken, anybody? We got plenty in the icebox." And gravy, enormous amounts of gravy, that white thick gravy that looks like plaster of Paris. So naturally enough, we had fried chicken and mashed potatoes and gravy, coleslaw and corn for my dad's birthday dinner. And white cake with butter icing, bought down at the Country Mart, custom designed with my dad's name on top, Paul. Next day, I decided to drive him out to the cemetery. We could say hello to Mom and then have a private talk at the cemetery. Now, 8 miles out of town, we stopped at a crossroads. The small green Kansas highway sign off to the side of the road actually read, "You're in South Mound, America. One dope head, one welfare case, and one old grouch." "I've always thought that was really dumb," I said. "I like it," my dad said. The town was a gravel crossroads, 4 houses, 2 of them boarded up, a house with trailer with window boxes, and then further on, 2 fairly large houses with window boxes, and then the window shades were pulled down, and then a cemetery with a small church. And 40 years ago, my mother's family's 400-acre wheat farm lay 2 miles due east of here. I pulled the car over on the culvert which ran by the cemetery and parked it one side up on the grass at an angle and the other side down in the gravel road. My father and I got out, and I stepped over the trickle of water that pushes the grass flat in the bottom of the ditch. My dad gave a little whoop and jumped it, and I congratulated him. He laughed. He looked down at the marker which said, "Nola Crooks Sutherland, wife, born 1908, died 1986. And then the spot next to that which read, "Paul Sutherland, husband, born 1904, died," and then a smooth blank space. "Well, sir, there she is. Okay, let's go." "Well, come on, Dad. No. This is the one place we won't get interrupted. We said we were going to have this talk, and we're not going anywhere until we do." So we sat down on Isabel Rutledge, dearly beloved of Abner, born 1898, died 1950. It was a good piece of marble, all warm from the sun, and our legs hung down in front. Dad said, "I'm going to tell Jiggs that when I die, I want him to straighten that thing off like the rest of them are." We'd been staring at the back of my folks' marker, and Dad's side was a little bit lower than Mom's. I heard the sprinkler over on the church lawn. I felt my pulse pounding in my neck, and I looked down to see that I had my feet crossed at the ankles just the way my dad's were crossed. "Okay, are you wearing your hearing aid? This is important." "Well, of course I'm wearing my hearing aid." "Well, have you got it turned on?" "Well, just a minute here." And he pulled it up till it whistled, then he cranked it back down again. "Okay, honey, here's the deal. You have to sell the big house down in Miami. You have to sell it, and you have to move to LA and live with me. I mean, you rattled around it down. There was so little to keep you busy. All you do is worry. You worry about my divorce. Well, I did the right thing. You worry about me not selling the apartment in New York. I can't. It's a recession. You worry that I don't have any money, and I don't, but I will again sometime. You get scared I'll never work again. Well, that's silly. You worry about the boys. They're both grown up, sweetie. They can do this. You worry about me moving to California, and then after all that, you call me up and you tell me that you don't sleep at night and you've lost 12 pounds. Well, that drives me nuts. You know, I can't fix any of it. It's just the way life goes sometimes. And then after a while, it goes a different way. I'm glad I did everything I did, even the mistakes. I wish you'd believe that. I get scared, but I'm glad. So now's the time. Sell it. Move. I was pacing back and forth across dead people. This is what we've been talking about since Mom died. This is it. If you lived near me, at least you'd know what the truth is. You wouldn't have to make it up. Face it, this could be pretty exciting. You're at the far end of your life. I'm in my middle part, and the boys are at the beginning, and we're all making different changes at the same time. We can help each other through. We always have. I'll help you take care of yourself. We could be together. Well, that's what you've always said. And I told him I loved him. He said he loved me too. He said he felt much better already, and I said I'd write all this down so he could remember it. Then we sat back down on Isabel and watched this old boy with a tractor with a big mowing blade come tilting down the other side of the road, mowing the shoulder. The tractor engine pumped up through the air and wrecked the silence. The mowing blade threw a stone over to the front of Isabel's tombstone, nearly missing my ankle. Let's get out of here, I said. And we did. We started the 8-mile drive back to Parsons in the late amber light. Like Kansas lay in the middle of the United States, Parsons lay right in the middle of my history. It was my life's heartland, but I didn't get to grow up there. I grew up in the back seat of one of those big Barney Buicks with chrome holes on the side of the hood, driving back and forth across America on 2-lane highways before the interstates. It was my mother and my father and me pulling a homemade trailer, sometimes 2 of at least 25 greyhound dogs, which we raced at tracks all across the country, all through the 40s and all through the 50s. Just when I got a new best friend in the whole world, just when we began to dress alike, I come home from school at the house in Miami and see the big hurricane shutters lying on the ground all around the house. Daddy worked in the yard without a shirt, wearing khakis. The waistband was stained with sweat, and there was usually a trickle of blood on his forehead. Oh, your father, Mama said. He doesn't even notice when he hits his head, honestly. And she gave a little sigh. She almost always called him your father when he did something wrong. So there was Dad, sweating and bleeding in the yard, and Mom was inside, her hair wrapped in a paisley scarf, her pants rolled up to her knees. The living room floor was crowded with big cardboard barrels, wads of bunched up newspaper. The cabinet doors were open, the tops of closets exposed. The room smelled of mildew and newsprint. I went into my room down the hallway. There were suitcases on the floor, empty and open. Little handwritten notes with arrows on them were scotch-taped to drawers and shelves. Pack this, keep or throw away. From my window, I heard the sound of the hedge trimmer starting up. Paul, just trim now, damn it, don't go wild. Pretty soon the yard would be dotted with little stumps which would grow enormous again by the time we returned in 3 months. I dropped my books on the bed and left my room. I stepped over Mama's clumps of paper. I went out the kitchen door and headed in a dead run over Dad's extension cord and the clippings, across the big stretch of backyard, past the tall stand of Australian pines to the lane which led up back to the kennel buildings. I let the screen door bang shut behind me. All the dogs jumped to their feet at the same time. I could hear their tails whacking up against the wire of their kennels. The metal on their collars jangled when they shook. So what, I said. So what, and who cares? I sure don't. I sure really don't care. And so what? We'll be back in 3 months anyway. I held my hands flat up against the wire of the door, which had Vivid Girl written in chalk across the top. That was her racing name. Her kennel name was Skinny. She was the smallest dog of all, but she was my favorite. The little greyhound pulled her tongue over the wire again, and I felt her little puffs of breath on my wet palms. So what? It's no big deal. So what do you care? Well, I don't care either. I sat down on the floor with my back up against the door of the kennel. I felt her licking my shirt, and my throat got all crunched up inside. I'll just sit right here. They'll probably forget about me. Then from the house, I'd hear the doorbell ring, the cowbell ring, and started back down the lane to help Mama with dinner. We left a few days later in that thin stillness that lingers just before dawn. I walked out of the side door of the house in my pajamas. I heard Dad nailing the glass shutter across the door, and I didn't look back. The back seat of the car smelled like apples and tobacco. The dogs moving in the trailer made the car tremble just a little. I could see part of Mama's profile on the back of her head. The smoke from her cigarette hung over her shoulder and over the top of the seat like a shawl. I lay down and watched the tops of the telephone poles sway and turn. I felt the hum of the road in my spine, and we drove north on that flat Florida road. And that's how we started. 2, sometimes 3 times a year. Portland, Oregon, Phoenix, Arizona, Texas, Colorado, Massachusetts, Mexico. I went to schools, left them, came back again. I had crushes, left them, came back again. I was a girl swung in big wide circles. We drove up from Georgia on Old 84 through the smell of sulfur and the clinging smell of damp red clay banks along the highway. We slipped through Alabama, clipped a piece of Tennessee, crossed the Mississippi. M-I-double-S-I-double-S-I-P-P-I. My mama laughed for the 100th time. We stopped at the stockyards in Little Rock, where we could turn out our dogs in one of the mazes of connected pens. It was crowded with farmers moving their livestock, and the smell of wet grain and cattle lay all warm and salty across the back of my tongue. There was a scale there big enough to weigh a truck, and I stood in the center of it, not making a bit of difference. 2 days out now, and headed for Portland, Oregon, resigned to the trip, I sat up in the back seat. Mama said I should keep a diary. Mama always had big ideas like that, but my handwriting got all shaky from the car. Leaving Little Rock, we climbed into the soft Ozarks. My ears popped with the altitude, and wildly colored peacock chenille bedspreads hung out on clotheslines for sale. Peacocks, Mama, peacocks. We could get one, I said. I think not, Mama said without looking up. Then up into the corner of Oklahoma, my heart fluttered, and I crowded myself up against the back of the front seat. Are we almost there, Mama? Soon, honey, soon. North in on 160 from Tulsa, up through Nowata, and then the state line. Welcome to Kansas, the sunflower state. And right over the line was Coffeyville, and next was Cherryvale. Then there was a roadside from the year before, and the year before that. Oh, Mama, look, I remember that. And closer yet when Mama said, my daddy helped build this bridge when I was a little girl. For now I knew what she'd say. I could almost say it with her. Up there now are Bender's Mounds, where the Bender family hid out. They were outlaws. The details came faster and faster like a bag spilling sugar. Parsons, Kansas. Population 10,000. City limits. We drove slow down Main, passing the simple blocks, the frame houses, and the hardware store with wooden floors, and the monkey wards where my Aunt Bernice worked on a switchboard, and she used to let me poke the things in. I wanted to stand out on the hood of the car where everybody could see us. Everybody, hello, we're back. Uncle Dale and Aunt Marie, we're here. Uncle Leon, Aunt Nadine, we're back now. Come on out, come on, Auntie Gert, come on. Hurry up, Uncle Blondie, Uncle Buck, and Annie Gale, Uncle Jiggs, Grandpa, we're almost there. Through town, we turned off on a gravel road which led to the farm out by South Mound. 2 miles, straight as a pocket comb, then a right turn at the one-room schoolhouse. I saw my Uncle Jiggs in the distance now. He was on a tractor harrowing the soil, followed by a ball of dust. He looked slightly down and back to watch the discs. I waved and waved. Dad tooted the horn. Uncle Jiggs! Uncle Jiggs! He looked up and jumped down off to the tractor before it slowed to a stop to run to us. I was out of the back seat of the car and running to meet his knees. He scooped me up under my arms and my feet flew up to the sky. He was a carnival ride. He was a prince. He put me up on the tractor seat, a warm, bouncing metal hand wrapped around my bottom. He stood behind me, shifted gears while I steered. You got her now. That's my girl. That's my girl. Maybe he would marry me when I grow up. He dipped me warm milk from the pail between his legs at milking time. He shot streams of milk at the cat's mouth and rested his head on the belly of the cow. I soaked my fingers in the bucket, and that spring's calf pulled on them with his tongue as powerful as a bicep. I rested on the daybed before dinner, immobilized under the farm quilt as heavy as another body and smelling of bread and winter. My back lay flat up against the stone backside of the fireplace. The stones were warm from the fire all the way through the wall, and I was contained and surrounded, no edges, in a way that was not possible at any other place in the land, safe in the middle of the United States. And there, on the same gravel road, driving my father back into Parsons from South Mound, only half a mile from those fields that had been turned and turned again by my uncles when they were boys, my dad said, "Look at that, will you?" The one-room schoolhouse lay all slid down into the ground on one side. They just ought to tear her down. Well, he put his house in Miami on the market. "So how's it going?" I yelled over the phone from California. "Hell, they keep wanting me to lower the price." "Yeah, well, that's what they do, you know. It's like a game." "Well, I like these two realtor women real well." "Oh, that's good, that's good." A couple of weeks later, "Well, I lowered the price." "How much?" "Well, I came down from 300,058 to 300,055. "Dad, well, I'm not going to give this place away." "Well, what did the realtors say?" "They said to lower it down to 300,040. "Yeah, well, have you gotten an offer yet?" "Hell no." "I don't get it." "Dad." Then another few weeks went by. "That old boy came back in the other day and brought his wife to see him." "Yeah? Told me he'd give me 300,020. "So what did you say?" I said, "That wasn't near enough. Told him I already lowered the price twice now from 300,058 down to 300,040. Told this fellow I'd already lost $18,000. "Dad, hold on here, hold on. You have to understand something. I'm not going to take a beating on this place." Daddy, how much did you pay for that place?" Let's see now. We bought it in '68. We paid exactly $68,000. I always liked the way that worked out. 68,000 cash. "Dad, even if you did sell it for 320, you will still have a profit of $250,000. I could hear his pencil scratching on a pad. "Well, maybe you just don't want to sell the house. This is Cuban fellow. He probably just came back the other day, came back with his wife. Let's move in here and start tearing the place apart, changing things around." "Anybody would, honey. It's not a Cuban thing." What people do. So I flew down to help him pack for the move. We put Mother's china and cut glass, which was going to sell, out on the maple dining table and took Polaroids of it. Dad stood right next to the table, beaming. I heard him say on the phone, "This girl really knows what she's doing. Well, I couldn't do it without her. She's got this place turned inside out." He packed a box of papers from the desk. "Did I ever show you this?" He opened up a spiral notebook with rows of meticulously inked-in figures. Everything was in dollars and cents. Nothing was rounded off. There was an envelope marked Living Trust. "Yes, honey, I know. I was there with you when you drew it up." "Well, I'd just like to go over it with you one more time." And he told me about the money he had, where it was, how it was invested, how he'd made it, and that someday it would all be mine. Dad shipped everything, included the shoe boxes of pieces of twine and clumps of colored rubber bands that you never know when you might need to Los Angeles. He pronounces it Los Angeles. I picked him up at the airport, and he takes me on a guided tour of the city I live in. "There was a track right here at the corner of Beverly and Fairfax, right next to the farmer's market. Your mother and I raced there in 1933. Turn at the next corner, head west. We'll go on by that market where I worked over on Western for some extra money. Now, and when we're through there, we're heading on to Culver City. I want to show you where that other old track was, and we'll swing by Palm Avenue, where your mother and I were married." I rented a house for him in a retirement community 45 miles north of L.A. I arranged the furniture as closely as I could in the same patterns it had been in the house in Miami, so he wouldn't run into things. I would turn to see him standing in the hallway to the bedrooms, totally baffled. You said this place had 2 bedrooms, he'd say. It does. Where the hell are they? You're looking at them. Oh, okay, I get it now. Listen, Dad, how about I move a few things and stick around with you for just a little bit till you get settled in? Staying with my father was appealing, for I too was displaced. After 50 after a second divorce, I left New York for L.A. One son stayed there working, and the other was in college here. Sitting on the matching maple dining room furniture my mother bought in the 50s, eating off her floral decorated dishes made me feel good. Though I would have to drive back and forth to L.A. looking for work, it seemed a small price to pay to feel safe. I had my calls transferred to his number. I bought some white wine. He unpacked the things from the safe. From the boxes. You know what I mean. Got something in here I'd like to show you. He wet his thumb and he settled in with the worn spiral notebook. Honey, don't. I know all this. Someday this will all be yours. He turned on the TV really loud. I unpacked all the boxes of dog trophies and I set them out on the buffet and the open shelving, as many would fit. Andy Begon, 1933. Inaugural winner, Beverly Fairfax Kennel Club. Rural Room, 1944. Winner, Multnomah Kennel Club. He sat in the big rocker watching me. What I want to know is why in the heck aren't you getting any work? I don't know, Dad. Smilin' Jessie, 1945. Flagler Dog Track. Winner. I mean, you show up at these auditions, don't you? Why don't they just give you the job? You're good enough, aren't you? Felt the tendons in my neck go rigid. Beats me. I unwrap more trophies. Pistol Packet Mama, 1945. Winner. No Alibi. Winner. Well, then I just need to know this. What'll you do if you don't get any more jobs? And I was deep in the carton now. Down with the big ones. Beachcomber, 1948. Biscayne Kennel Club. Winner. What'll you do if you can't sell that apartment? Beachcomber, 1949. Winner. What if you don't get married again? Beachcomber, 1950. Winner. What'll become of you? Beachcomber. World champion, 99 race winner. World champion. Winner. 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 Honey, listen. I'm doing all the right things. And everything's going to be okay. When I was 10, I stood just outside the back seat of the car with the door open at Biscayne Kennel Club in Miami. I didn't get to go inside the tracks where all the good things happened because minors weren't allowed. It was a night of the big inaugural. It was a night when Beachcomber could set a new world record for a greyhound. My mother and my father were inside in the grandstand to watch Shorty, the nickname for our champion dog, win a champion race. You stay right here, baby, my mama said. And her breath smelled sweet from a Manhattan. I could still chase the cherry from it on my tongue. Everyone knows you're here. They'll all keep an eye on you. So I waited out in the back lot where the dog owners parked their rigs and cooled out their dogs. The music from the band made my bones feel hollow. Suddenly the music stopped. The lights of the grandstand shut down. Here comes Rusty. I climbed up on the fender so I could see the race. They're off! And it's my barber first out on the rail, followed by Beachcomber in the number 2 position. No refund, and Red Feather closing hard on the first turn, heading to the back stretch. It's a changing field now. Wire brakes and soapy hands challenging from behind. Beachcomber has pulled out in front. My barber is fading. Into the last turn is no contest. Beachcomber the lead by 3 lengths. No, 4. He's flying now, followed by No Refund. And look at that air brakes, finishing fast. Here comes the finish line. Far and away, it's Beachcomber. It's a world record, ladies and gentlemen, and an easy world record. I wept and wrung my hands and jumped up and down on the fender, but I was faking it. After all, it was a dog. It was only a dog. I was just a girl. I couldn't even set one world record. But I did it so that the other dog men walking their dogs would say to my parents later, it was the sweetest thing you'd ever want to see. That little old girl was just jumping out of her skin. And Dad would slap Shorty on the flanks, and Mom would give me a woman look. And we would all stand there together, Mom, Dad, Shorty, and me. and photographers with big bulbs in their cameras might take pictures of my family, Mom, Dad, Shorty, and me. Everyone in that picture loved someone else the best. I loved my father the best. My father loved me the best, and my father loved the dogs the best. Looky here! He handled the dogs like they were beanbags. Nothing to it. He slid his finger down the inside of their black ribbon lips, down the edges of their green teeth. Nothing to be afraid of. He slipped his finger under their tongues, and they opened their mouths right up. He placed worm peels there, way back in their throats. He held their jaws together with one hand, and their eyes followed his. Show 'em who's boss. And the dogs just stood there, their skinny legs shaking. Sure enough, there was a slow movement in the throat. The lump went up and then down again. He whittled their toenails. He combed them. He brushed them. He washed them. He gave them shots. He scraped their teeth with a penknife. He went inside their ears with his thumb. Here we go. He cracked ticks with his thumbnail. He straddled them backwards, lifted their feet off the ground with a single motion, slipped a piece of weed up their asses so they would move their bowels, looked at what they'd moved, and drew conclusion. The dogs waited passively to be released. My mother and I waited to be chosen. At night, off Red Road, north of Hialeah, with Daddy at the track, I read Zane Grey hidden in my geography book on the sofa. Mama cooked at the maple dining room. Mama sewed at the maple dining room table with all the leaves up. The Jolly windows were all crooked wide open, and even that with no air move. The machine whirred and stopped, whirred and stopped. And in the dark, in that soft, moist Florida air, we would hear, oh, oh, whoa, from up back, from the kennels. And then quickly on the next breath, other dogs joined in, all up and down Red Road, for as far as you could hear, ow, ow, ow. That sound bent up through the roof. And another kennel building down the road joined in and picked it up. And Mother got up and turned the machine off and she went over and banged on the side of the house, and she turned the light off and on, and she said, quiet down out there now. And they did. In the absence of the howling, we waited for Dad to come home from the track. And when he did, he came laughing through the back door with brand new $50 bills in his hand. Can I feel one, Daddy? He reached down from behind Mother and laid them on the table in front of her, still laughing. She looked at him out of the sides of her eyes. She said, oh, you. She smiled, turned out the light on the sewing machine. She rose, and they walked down the hallway to the bedroom. Finally, in Denver one night, my mother said, all right, she can go with you, but keep her away from those bums. This was my chance. It was a new track, the only one that let kids in. This was it. It had to happen. They're not bums, no, Mama, please. And don't start talking and forget she's with you. He won't. Promise. Hell, let her come with me. She'll be fine. I drove with my dad toward the wide sweep of light from the grandstand of the dog track, back by the Rockies in the evening sky, west of our house in Denver. The Chevy truck shivered under my fanny. I licked my lips and straightened my pleated skirt over my knees. I was going to the track with my dad. We drove past the big parking lot where men with flashlights at the ends of their arms directed traffic like they were folding laundry. We drove through the chain-link fence and turned in where it said, keep out, owners only. We pulled in and parked the spot marked Sutherland. The first race had been run. I could see the time and minute and even second on the new electronic tote board across the infield. I liked the feeling that together, hundreds of people and I got to know the beginning of the very next minute. The band began another Sousa march, and now the entries for the second half of the daily double. My father took my hand and I pulled it back. We moved toward the gate which led to the crowds and the grandstand, past the lounge where the dog men hung out, past the ginny pit where the dogs were kenneled till their next race. And in that ring were a group of young grooms, all dressed in white, milling about, spitting in the dirt and snapping their leather leashes at each other. Boys. When we passed, I stared hard at the ground. The back of my head got hot. Boys were there. Then through that last gate, I was pushed up against the clothes of strangers. I smelled soap, hot dog, sweat. Dad left and I followed him, concentrating, weaving through the hips of grown-ups. It felt like a game. Sure moves, economical, tight. Good, I missed. I cleared without touching. Keep up with that. Keep those feet moving. Almost lost him. Look for the blue windbreaker. Doing great. Good, good. The music. You're in time with the music. Make it last. Make it last. Don't miss a beat or something might happen. Bells called past post time. There were more feet than you could ever count. Crazy shoes. Then up a big main staircase to the box seats. Hi, Paul. Howdy, Paul. How's it going? Who do you like? What race is he in? What have you got tonight, Paul? Looking good, Paul. Good evening, Mr. Sutherland. Your seats are right this way. And you too, little lady. That's Paul Sutherland. He owns a kennel. That's Sutherland. Beachcomber's his dog. Holds a record, don't he? He's the champ. That's Sutherland. That's his daughter. I was at the track with my father. I had him all to myself, and it was okay with my mother. And now, all these years later in California, it was the same kind of feeling. I had him all to myself. My mother was dead and gone. We were finally together. Things were going well in Leisure Village. We'd fallen into a kind of rhythm, a few days together and then back to L.A. I like it up here, he said. Well, I just want to make sure I have you all settled here, Dad, before I have to leave to drive down to L.A. Don't have to worry about me. Take care of myself, he said. Okay, let's see now. We did the marketing, so you've got lunch stuff, turkey bologna and lettuce. I went to the bank and you've got your money, right? I put that phone number you asked me for over there. I left my cell number written right over there in those big red letters taped to the phone. I told you I'm going to stay down in town for a couple of days. I'll be back on Tuesday, and I'll be sure to check in with you while I'm gone. Fine by me. Okay, then. Anything else? No, siree. So you're all set. All right as rain. Good. Okay, then. I headed for the door. Wait just 1 second here. Did you get that turkey bologna for me? Well, yes, I stood in the doorway to the condo, the engine running in the driveway behind me. Yes, honey, I did. It's right in the fridge. I'll be fine then. Okay, Dad, okay. I guess I'm out of here. Hold it. I'll need some money. There's $200 in your wallet. I'll be back in a couple of days. I don't want to carry that much money around. Dad, honey, you don't go anywhere. You have everything you need. I've really got to be on my way so I can beat traffic. Now sit down right over there before you go. Let's just take out this map and this magic marker and show me how to get her to that woman's house who is fixing my pants. What? What do you mean? You can't go over there. Well, now, he said defensively, and his eyes began to shift back and forth. He looked off to the side when there was a confrontation coming up. So do I think. So there we were, talking with the sides of our heads. Darn it, I like those pants. And when you took me over there yesterday, why, hell, she didn't even measure them right, I don't think. And I forgot to tell her I don't wear a belt with those pants. Well, what difference does that make, I said, clutching my backpack. I don't wear a belt with them because they have that big elastic thing around the waist, so I don't need one, Dad. Listen, I said, breathing deeply, this lady is a tailor. That's what she does, for Pete's sake. She's a tailor. I saw her measure the pants. I saw her. I am not, do you hear me, not going to take you over there. She's going to do a fine job. She knows what she's doing, so just forget it. Well, then, said, I'll just drive there by myself. You'll what? I said. His eyesight is dim. His hearing is lousy. His reflexes are on a 10-second delay. I pulled out what I was sure was my trump card. Darn it, Dad, those polyester pants only cost about $13. You've had them hanging in the closet without wearing them for a year. What's the difference? What's going on here anyway? And now I was yelling. He pulled himself together and he yelled back, well then, okay, if I go over there and I put them on and they fall right down to the floor, well then, it'll all be your fault. Now we were face to face, eyeball to eyeball, in a stunned silence. Wow, I said, this is crazy. This is not about pants. This is not about the pants. What? He said. This is not about the pants, I said. This cannot possibly be about pants. He started over to the sofa, and I heard coming back over his shoulder, well, it's about my pants, all right. I let the screen door close behind me, running irretrievably late by now. My father sat in the chair looking at the TV screen. It was turned off. I felt like crap. I've been yelling at my father. My father was 87. His milky eyeballs and his 2 inches shorter than he used to be. I've been losing it with my father. And I could probably blow him away to space with one really good yell and his bones right up to the sky like something jettisoned. How could I? He was looking down at the carpet. Daddy, listen, I said. I knelt down on the floor and held on to his knees. This is not about the pants. This is about something else. I don't know what, but I think it's about not being heard. It's probably about moving and being away from your friends. It's probably about being pissed off with me because I made you do it. Well, I said, I think it's easier to argue about pants than it is to tell your feelings sometimes. And I told him about having more than one feeling at the same time. I told him that several feelings could be bad and good at the same time and even be about people you were only supposed to love. You can get all jammed up. I put my hand on his belly. Here. I put my hand on his chest. Here, I said. You can be so angry at somebody you like. You can be sad and disappointed. You can feel lonely. You can not know what tomorrow has in store. And then you can tell that person anything you want to because they're just words. They go out into the air. They come out of your mouth like word balloons in comic strips, and then they go away. They're just words, and everyone has them inside them. And the deal is to get them out. So my dad looked at me with his cloudy eyes. I swallowed hard. He said, "Thank you." Well, thank you. I feel a lot better now. I finally made it to the car and turned out of the complex. I thought, who do I think I am? Guessing what would be good for other people. It's scary as the dickens. Would I want someone like me around when I get older? Would I just want to punch me in the nose? And I hit the freeway to LA. Love is like drawing circles freehand. You just keep on drawing, and every once in a while the lines meet. Could you please return a call to the Pleasant Valley Medical Center concerning your father? Ask for the emergency room. I drove way over the speed limit back up to Camarillo. The emergency room was one large space with clumps of curtains that could be pulled around a bed. Only one of the beds had the curtains pulled. They were flapping about from the inside, and I saw feet in the space beneath them. Hell, honey, my wife and I know that section of the country. Well, we had some dogs racing at that track right outside of Memphis back in 1959. Just out there off Highway 101. I pulled the curtain aside. Here she is, he said, beaming. His forehead was badly bruised and cut. His arm was bandaged, and he had a brace on his leg. That nurse there, well, she's from Memphis, Tennessee. Been out here about 12 years now. He's been keeping us all entertained. I put his shoe back on the leg that was braced, and everyone in the emergency ward waved goodbye. An old woman with thinning red hair who was sitting in the waiting room said, "Nice to meet you, Paul," and blew him a kiss. It's the darndest thing, he said. I was just sitting there at that stoplight waiting for the green arrow to pull into that front gate, just sitting there, and I made that turn, and some fella just, out of the blue, from out of nowhere, ran right into me. I don't know what the Sam Hill he must have been thinking. The police report said, 1986 Cadillac DeVille turned left against the light into oncoming traffic at the intersection of Almirada and Ferris Lane. Estimated speed of roto-rooter van, 50 miles an hour. The Cadillac, formerly and approximately the size of a Chris Crab, sat in the auto body yard with its entire front end bunched up. My golly, look at that, will you? The insurance company adjuster said, "Well, we'll have that fixed right up for you in no time." I phoned the insurance agent. He's 87 years old, for Christ's sake. He just turned against a light in front of violently oncoming traffic. What do you mean you're not going to cancel the policy? You always cancel policies. My youngest son, Leo, home from school, and I sat at the small breakfast table across from Dad, whose forehead was finally turning yellow from the bruises. "Dad, do you have your hearing aid in? This is important." "Of course I do." "Yeah, but is it turned on?" said Leo. "Well, just a minute." "You have to think about not driving anymore." He looked down at his hands. And we rationalized. We begged. We pleaded. We personalized it. "For me, Pawpaw," Leo said. "For me," I said. "For Brendan," we said, invoking the name of the grandson who wasn't even there. got real quiet and nobody could breathe. Okay, he said. You're right. We hugged him and we told him how proud we were of him. I cried and he cried and Leo patted us both on the back. Eventually we got the big car back and pulled it into the garage where it sat, all shiny and restored, the gas gauge registering on empty. I'll just start her up once in a while, he said. A few days after that, it began to suddenly collapse, just kind of fold up. His leg, which had been jammed up against the steering wheel in the wreck, gave out on him, and he'd go down disbelieving. And with the same disbelief, he let me take care of him. I drove him down to physical therapy in L.A. every other day. I lay on my back with him on the shag carpeting and did his exercises. I drove him to the market. I drove him to the bank. We drove to Pathmark to buy a bottle of bourbon on sale. I drove him back home. Then I drove back down the Ventura to look for work in L.A. I zoned out on talk radio and my eyes crossed just before I hit those row of buttons on the highway that wake you up. I came home and helped him undress for a shower. I held him upright in the shower from outside the stall, my shirt sleeves and my shoes getting wet. Okay, I said one morning, okay, this is it, kiddo. You have to give me your money and I have to buy us a house. It's just no good to tell me it will all be mine. We need it now, you and me, us, now. It'll be okay. First house I saw was perfect. Dad, I found the house we're going to buy. Not going to buy the GD house, so look at 20 of them. Well, with the walker and his getting tired, it took 3.5 hours to look at 2. And he forgot what he'd seen. I don't remember, he said. It's too much. I don't remember. You're going to have to let me do it, Dad. You're going to have to trust me here. I looked at 20 houses in one weekend. I went back and I made an offer on the first one. He was confused and scared. What did you say? Did you tell me that you bought that house? I don't remember. He was forgetting more and more. One morning off the kitchen, I heard the car starting up. It was 9 a.m. I opened the garage door to the garage to find my father sitting in the Cadillac wearing his Dolphins hat with the outside garage door closed. Dad? Oh, yes? What the heck are you doing here? They said to charge the batteries. Are you crazy? The garage door is closed. You could die. And I pushed the opener on the side of the wall. I said to him, we'll charge it another time. I said, it doesn't matter. Someone else will do it, I said. What's the difference? Don't worry, you'll be fine, I said, when I drove him back and forth to physical therapy. And when I gave him the stack of loan documents to sign, I said, I can take care of you. You'll like this house. You'll see. It's okay. When I packed the things for a second time in a year, I said, I know how to do this stuff, Dad. I do. I can fix up the guest house for you just fine. When I helped him sign his name to the check for the down payment, I said, I'll make my own money again, honey. I'll be careful with yours. I can do this. You've got plenty. I can do this, I said. Let me, I said. Everything's going to be fine. I promise. I sent Dad to Parsons while I moved us into the new house. He in the guest house and me in the big house. We were finally settled together. Did you take a shower today? Had one yesterday. Well, where's your hearing aid? What's that? Hearing aid. Oh, yes, I just cleaned it out with a toothpick. Wait till you see what I got out of it. No, thanks, no. He brushed his false teeth with comment. Dad, don't do that. He popped popcorn and watched football. The game turned so loud that for the big house, the rest of the roof of the guest house seemed to lift just a little. Then he brought the bowl of popcorn over and he gave me what was left. He had his nap at 2 o'clock. He slept until 4:30 when he got up and brushed his hair. Time for my walk. Well, stand up straight. And he straightened up and walked like a soldier for a few paces before he began to slip back forward again. Then he came back and we talked outside in the driveway while I watered the flowers. I got a dog and I named him Waldo. A darn fool name for a dog, he said. But he dropped pieces of popcorn on the rug for him and Waldo fell asleep on my father's foot. Everyone went out back to visit him when they came to see me. When I had people over for dinner, he came too. Oh, hello, honey, he would say. Well, I'm just so darn glad to see you again. And then he sat out on the deck with us, tipped back in a chair, and talked about racing greyhounds. He talked about all the years gone, the years already lived, as clearly as a documentary film. And then the next day he'd say to me, "That was Jill, wasn't it, last night?" "No, no, honey, that was Carrie." Some mornings he came into the house and settled down at the table for a talk. "So, Dad, what do you think about life?" "Well, what about it?" "I mean, what do you think happens after it?" "Hell, I don't know. Don't think about it." "You don't? Well, for example, do you think about what will happen to us after we die?" "Not very much, I don't. I'll tell you one thing, though. That Jesus was one big phony." Fellow had them all eating out of the palm of his hand. "Oh, is that so? Is that so?" "Oh, my, yes, I'll say." "Well, wait, what do you think about God?" "Oh, well, that's okay." "You mean you think there might be a God?" "Of course there's a God. There's something. I know that all right." "How do you know?" "Just go outside and look up." "And then what?" "That's it. You look up. That's how you know." And just as routinely, he had attacks of anxiety. One morning I went in the kitchen where I was hunkered over the sink putting coffee grounds in an old milk container. I told him there was a leak under the house and that the plumber was coming later that day to fix it. Oh boy, I don't know what to do. We're running out of money." No, Daddy, we're just paying bills." "I mean, you don't think about this. I think about this. What will we do when we don't have any more money?" "Daddy, sit down here. Let me write everything down for you." And I took his figures out and I wrote them all down again. I held onto the pen so tightly I could feel the bones in my fingers. "But what if you don't ever work again? What will Leo do? What will Brendan do?" "Daddy, it's okay. They're old now. Things don't stay the same way all the time." "Why, this old boy who sold us this house must be laughing up his sleeve." "Daddy, what do you mean? It's just fine." "Laughing up his sleeve," he said. "Look at this when you get scared, sweetheart. Just look over on the fridge and it'll be fine." I took a piece of paper and I wrote the substantial amount of money he had on it in red magic marker. "See, this is what you have. This is the money you have. And you also own the house and you can sell it for money anytime you need to. I just don't know what we're going to do," he said, and left me standing in the kitchen. The next day I came home to see he'd left a bank statement on the kitchen table with "Look" written on it in red pencil and an exclamation point after it. I called out to the little house to talk to him. "Did you see that bank stuff I left there?" "Yes, Daddy," I said. "Well, I think you just ought to have a look at it. Then you'll see what I mean all right." I hung up the phone and I looked at the bank statement. I tore it in half. I went out to the little house. He was reading an old Reader's Digest. "Dad, put the book down for just a minute. Now look, I can't make you feel any better about money, and I can't make you feel any better about getting old, and I can't make you feel any better about losing control or anything. I wish to heck I could, but I can't, because I didn't invent it. And the other thing is you're not the first person to feel this way, and you didn't invent it. I know you get scared, and I know you feel like everything is slipping away." Yep. "Well, I've got something new to tell you. I'm in worse shape than you are right now, and I'm the person who needs some help. That's what I want to tell you." "What?" "I'm in worse shape than you, and I need something too, and you're going to give it to me. It's my apartment that won't sell, and it's my money that's all gone, and I'm the one who's taking care of everything else here all on my own. You're my father, and you get to act like it. We have a great opportunity, you and me. I wanted something I couldn't get when I was little, and you want something you think you can't get now. So we both are left wanting things. Well, we're going to get them. I'm going to show you how to do this thing, and then you're going to do it. It will make you feel good. It will make me feel terrific. Just say this thing to me. Say, honey, you're doing all the right things, and everything is going to be okay. Well, I know you are. Say it. Honey, I think you're doing... No, that's not it. Honey, you're doing all the right things, and everything is going to be okay. Well, I've always said if anybody can do it, you can. That's not what I said. Well, you know I love you. That's not it. Honey, you're doing all the right things, and I surely hope everything... No, that's not good enough. Say, everything is going to be okay. Well, I wish that... No. No, I hope. No, I wish. No, I think that's not good enough. That's what I need, and it's not what I asked for. Look at me now. He looked at me. No tears either. We don't need that. Say the words to me now. Well, what is it again? Honey, you're doing all the right things, and everything is going to be okay. Honey, doing all the right things, and everything is going to be okay. Again. Honey, doing all the right things, and everything is going to be okay. He leaned back in his chair. Again. Honey, he folded his arms across his chest, tipped his chair back, held his chin up. You're doing all the right things, and everything is going to be okay. Before my boys were born, I hadn't thought very much about having children. When they were born, I found that I thought they had been with me always. I thought they began when I began, back in Portland, Oregon, when my dad was at the track. I thought they had gone to school with me, yearned for the same Kansas, had been in love and had to leave. And then, with my dad, I thought I had been with him always in the same way, had always belonged to him, and that his heart was just another deeper chamber of my own. I guess I thought I owned everyone I loved, so that 2 weeks later, when my father chose to end his life at 88, I felt like a crime had been committed. When I was a little girl, when I was a big girl, when I was growing up, all the years I lived at home, every day, every track, every season, every year of school, every shoe size, every dance, every litter, every trip, dogs got killed. Mama said they were put to sleep. Daddy said they were put down. If they didn't win, if they didn't throw good pups, if they got lame and couldn't be fixed, if they got old and couldn't eat, if they didn't produce, if they couldn't pay, if they had bad luck, the dogs got killed when they were no longer of use. Dad took them to the vet gave them a shot, and then they were gone, and the name on their muzzle was painted over. They were there, and then they were gone in just an instant. In my bedroom, with a rows of tiny roses on the wallpaper with drapery fabric to match, I figured out how to fix it on my own. Here's what I will do. I will wait until late at night. Then I will rescue the dogs. I will go to the kennels. I will say, quiet now, honeys, and they will be. I'll get them all on leashes. And all the ones who couldn't win, all the ones who'd been spayed, all the ones who dragged a back leg. I will fill my pockets and paper bags with kibbles for us to eat. I will travel only at night. I will water us in the farm ponds, and we will sleep in the daytime, in barns and gullies, in rows of corn. I will take the doomed dogs out and away in the deep of night, and no one will catch up with us, not ever. I should not have been surprised that my father could kill himself. And I should not have been surprised that I could not rescue him. I called the lawyers and the accountants. I got extra copies of the death certificates. I changed the name on the bank accounts. I wrote all the thank you notes. I folded his clothes. I put his shoes in a cardboard box. I painted the inside of the guest house. The summer passed by, the spring and fall. I was working out in my garden, where the flowers untended had gotten leggy. I clipped and cut. I tossed the stringy cuttings back over my shoulder onto the grass with a lovely sense of satisfaction and rightness. The light began to fade. I was working on the bed out there in front of the guest house where my father had lived. I wasn't thinking about my father. I was thinking about the woman who lives there now. I smelled her cigarette smoke from inside the little house. I was breathing hard. I pulled one of the big vinyl cans with wheels on them on through the dusty alley. I got over to where I could put the cuttings into it. Then I pulled it around to the front of the garage where the household garbage cans were. My father used to say to me early in the morning, well, now, garbage tomorrow. And then he'd mention it a couple of more times during the day. I, being short with him, would say, all right, honey, all right, we'll get to it, honey. He looked forward to it. He liked doing it. He liked lining up the bottles with all their labels going in the same direction. He liked dragging the big cans around and packing the garbage neatly in so he could get a lot in. Doesn't matter, Daddy. It gets all messed up anyway. I looked over the big white garage door. That's always how it happens. You're thinking something simple like, where did this old towel come from? How did his towel get in here with my laundry? You pass the frozen food section in the market and think you should picking up a home-style chicken with noodles. You're thinking about your dead flowers or the new tenant. I stood in front of the closed garage door with a full white plastic tall kitchen bag in my hands. How did he get it open? It was 5:30 in the morning. Did he come into the house and get the opener, the clicker, off the shelf above the kitchen table? Did Waldo the dog hear him leave the foot of my bed, come out and lick his hand? Did he cry? Was it dark? Didn't he think about missing the smell of moisture on the grass in the mornings? Wasn't he dizzy from all the pills? Did he open the garage door with the clicker and then close it again once he was inside? Where is the clicker? Did he remember to turn on the pull chain light separate from the automatic light which goes on when you open the garage door? If he didn't remember to do that, how did he see to tie the rope? Did he use clothesline rope? What rope was out there? I can't remember. I shouldn't have left rope lying around. Did he throw the rope up over that 2x4 while I was standing on the ground? Did he make a special knot, or did he just make something like anybody would and hope it held? Did he stand on sawhorses with plywood over them? Did he stand on something I wouldn't have thought of? Did he leave his shoes on? Did he take out his teeth? Where are my father's teeth? I was asleep only a few feet away, probably dreaming. Maybe I was holding my breath. I got up and made coffee. Rick, my roommate, my good friend, was getting ready to go to work. I went up to the driveway at 8:30 and saw my father's newspaper was still there. My mouth got dry, and my ears began to ring. I walked back fast to the guest house. There's only 2 rooms. I could see everything in it when I opened the front door. "Dad," I said, not knowing where he was, but knowing for sure he was not there. And there's no place else in the world he should be. Every day since we moved here, I'd walk past the guest house, and when I looked at the front door to open, not seen him for a second, I thought about this moment so that when it happened, I might be able to do it. And now, here I was looking through the kitchen to the bed. It was unmade. The corners pulled directly back in a perfect triangle where he had gotten out. I stared and stared at the covers pulled back. I thought about what that meant. Then I turned and I walked into the little kitchen. I looked at the table. On a purple raffia placemat were his glasses neatly folded up, his wallet squared off beside them, an envelope with my name, and 2 white squares of paper. One of them said, "I took 25 Xanax at 5:20 a.m. And the other note said, "Look in garage." I laid my head back on my shoulders. I opened my mouth and cried, "My father!" I heard Rick at the door. I heard him run away from the door. I heard the whir of the big garage door opening. I heard my friend Rick cry, "Oh, no, Paul." I stood there in the little kitchenette. "My father! My father! My father!" And that's how it happens. In just an instant, when you're thinking about something else. In the fall, I drove from Kansas City to Parsons with my father's ashes beside me in the front seat of the car. Up through Coffeyville, past Bender's Mounds, slow down Maine. Everybody, hello, we're back. The church was gone out at South Mound, so we had a service in a rented tent over by the culvert. My cousin Richard, who's a preacher, said a benediction. We all lined up and took a picture, and then my Uncle Jiggs put on his overalls and got out a shovel. Promised I'd level this thing off for him. We walked out to the cross where the cottonwoods where the cars were parked, and we drove back into Parsons with all the car windows open. We got out of our Sunday clothes and had some cold beers, and we had some fried chicken. We threw the wet tennis ball around for the dogs. Later, after the fireflies came out, I sat out in the backyard with my cousins on folding chairs, and we all looked up at the stars. And that's it. We just looked up.
With someone like you, a past so good and true, I'd like to leave it all behind and go and find some place that's known to God. little nest somewhere